Good morning. It's been a busy week here in Helena as the legislative session begins to wrap up. In the last election, Montanans were very clear on their priorities. They sent us here with this to-do list, and they expect us to get it done. And yesterday, thanks to the work of the legislature, I was able to check off one of our top priorities, raising starting teacher pay. In 2021, we established the TEACH Act. It offered to offer incentives to school districts to increase starting teacher pay. In the first year, we helped nearly 500 Montana teachers begin their careers with a higher salary. In 2023, we boosted the TEACH Act by 40%. Recognizing the success of the program, I proposed that we go farther. In our November budget, we proposed an additional $100 million to ensure school districts have the resources they need to pay starting teachers what they deserve. That proposal, the STARS Act, is on its way to my desk. I want to thank the sponsor and every Republican and Democrat who voted for it, for prioritizing our students, our starting teachers, and our classrooms. As soon as the son and father of high school teachers, I know the STARS Act will make a meaningful difference. By raising starting teacher pay and investing directly in the classrooms, we're building brighter futures for our teachers and our students. Yesterday in Kalispell, I was able to mark this priority off our list. While in Kalispell, I visited with Grayson Buckner and Haley Owens at the Rancher's Daughter, a farm-to-table retail store selling Montana beef, pork, chicken, and lamb at their farm-to-table store. I heard from them about the importance of the remaining items on our to-do list, mostly on the importance of income and property tax relief. Grayson told me running a small business is not for the faint of heart. I can attest to that. Grayson and Haley talked about how cutting both property and income taxes would be a big help for their businesses and their employees. With lower taxes, they said they would be able to give more bonuses to their hardworking staff at the Rancher's Daughter and the Glacial Grind. For the benefit of Grayson, Haley, and all the hardworking Montanans, we must take meaningful action on property taxes and income taxes before the legislature gavels out. Lower taxes means more good-paying jobs. More good-paying jobs means stronger Montana families. Thankfully, this week, the legislature is making progress on these remaining priorities. On Tuesday, the Senate passed Speaker Lear's House Bill 337. House Bill 337 reduces the top income tax rate and increases the earned income tax credit from 10% to 20%, providing an income tax cut to Montanans at every income level. This is a great step towards our ultimate goal of a flat income tax in Montana. And with the Senate's action this week, the bill is heading to my desk. This proposal is in line with our conservative principles, allowing Montanans to keep more of what they earn, recognizing that the money belongs to them and not to the government. Today, I'm proud to check this next one off the list. I have my handy marker. Cut income taxes. Done. I'm hopeful that in these last few days of the legislative session, we can complete the remaining items on the list. We are focused on the priorities of Montanans who sent us here to address the problems facing them and their families. Together, I know we can get property taxes done, enact a fiscally responsible budget, and reform our judiciary. And I'm ready. I've got my marker to check these off on our to-do list. So with that, I'd be happy to open it up for questions. Just please state your name and affiliation. Who'd like to go first? Yes.
Zeke Lloyd, Montana Free Press. So there was a legislative fiscal division a memo yesterday that projected major impact on Montana's budget if the federal government were to pull back its current match rate for Medicaid, especially with the state's growing population. It also mentioned budget impacts on potential federal cuts to like Head Start, community services block grants, and community development block grant. What parts of the memo do your agencies agree with, and are you prepping for those possibilities?
Yeah, I haven't seen the report yet, so I don't want to comment specifically on it. I will say I've directed all the agencies to look at what's going on in Washington and determine its impact, and we'll respond appropriately as we get more details. There tends to be a lot of rumors and not a lot of facts yet, so we're waiting to actually find out what comes down towards us.
Would you say you're concerned?
I think President Trump was elected to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington. There is a little Chicken Little behavior going on. The sky is not falling. I think we'll be okay. Yes?
Blair Miller with Lee Newspapers. The Department of Administration director, her vote's been sort of held up on the Senate floor. Just wondering if you have any concerns about that being pushed back as we get here to the very final days of the session.
Well, there's still time on the clock. Let me say, Misty Ann Giles has done a tremendous job as the head of the Department of Administration. She has my unreserved support. It is the Senate's job to consider these nominations and to, if there isn't some substantial reason not to confirm them. So again, she has my support, and I think there's still time left on the clock. We can get it done. She, at this point, is the last cabinet nomination left. So I look forward to seeing that over the finish line too. I could add it to my list. Yes?
Mike and Drew Daly, Montana. You still have the reformed judiciary over there, and we are getting to the final days of the session. So my question is, what would you consider judicial reform at this point with what's on the table? I know that you've sent back Senate Bill 45 for the Judicial Evaluation Commission with some amendments, but with what we've seen come across the line so far, would you consider that reform?
Well, there's a number of things that have gotten to me. I signed the injunctive relief bill. That was Steve Fitzpatrick's bill. I think that's a good step forward. I was pretty clear at the beginning what I thought judicial reform looked like, but you don't get to move the goalposts. I mean, this is on our list for good reason. I think the Montanans expect us to do something in this area, and I'll look forward to considering whatever remaining bills get my way.
Is there anything in the works you think that could get us closer to partisan judicial elections at this point, or do you think that'll be a conversation for next session?
I am always hopeful. Yes?
Governor, Jordan Hanson, Daily Montana. There's been a lot of legislation the last two sessions dealing with new tech, blockchain, but also data centers and some of the infrastructure and energy infrastructure behind that to push that forward. And I guess my question to you is, I'm just kind of curious, in your eyes, what type of future is this setting up Montana for, and it has kind of accomplished some of your goals? Well,
I'm a techie, right? And so I think technology provides an opportunity to advance our economy. We now have a high-tech sector in Montana that's at or above $3 billion a year in revenue. This is creating good-paying jobs. And as new technologies emerge, whether it's blockchain or AI, we ought to be making sure our schools are preparing our students to participate in this new economy. Regulation tends to follow, not lead. So I think we have to be careful as we look at regulations that we don't impede the adoption of new innovations. If there's a problem, let's fix it. For example, the bill that's moving through on social media right now, we're starting to understand the impact on our kids of unlimited access to YouTube feeds and Instagram feeds, and how that has a correlation with depression and anxiety. But we could never have anticipated that prior to social media being adopted broadly. So I think the right role for government is mostly to stay out of the way, let these innovations proceed, and make sure there's nothing in the code that prohibits innovation to continue in these technology areas. And if there's a problem, we'll fix it. Jonathan?
Thank you, Governor. Jonathan Andarian from the Montana Television Network. There's a couple of bills making their way through the process right now that deal with the allocation of marijuana tax revenue. And I know that you don't like to speculate about legislation that hasn't passed yet, but I was curious if you had any overarching philosophy on how you would like to see marijuana tax revenue used. Are you open to some of the ideas that they've talked about as far as, say, this Habitat Legacy account to sort of broaden the Habitat Montana conservation usage of it, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we'll have to see what form the final bill comes. There has been an attempt in this legislature to take money that would normally offset income taxes and shift it to other purposes. And I am generally opposed to those efforts because Montana still has the highest income tax rate in the region. Even with the bill coming our way, we still have more work to do there. And I just don't think additional burden should be put on taxes be put on the wages of Montanans. They should keep more of their money.
Does that mean that you're less wanting to see general fund taken out, stuff taken out of the general fund as far as that goes?
Anytime you encumber specific revenue streams for certain purposes, it really ties the hands of future legislatures and administrations. And these times, they are changing. And we have to be ready for what the future brings. Any other? Yeah.
Blair Miller again with the newspapers. There's been some, as we were kind of ironing out these final property tax bills, the budget, there's been some discussion, especially from the Republican side in the Senate, about we're overspending, there's too much here, the governor's going to be able to have his way with his veto pen here if we send him too much. Just wondering what your discussions have been with lawmakers this week and that, and where your head's at in terms of what you'd like to see in terms of a budget and some of these property tax relief bills, and whether or not you would have to sort of kill off the things that you want to get everything sort of at the middle ground here.
Well, we'll consider every bill that ends up on my desk, but limiting spending is one of the items on the to-do list. And constitutionally, we have to have a balanced budget. So if the legislature doesn't do it, I'll do it. I also believe we're in this very strong economic position today with low unemployment, more people working than ever before, is because we have limited spending. So my additional objective is to see state spending growth at less than the rate of inflation. That's a higher standard than what the Constitution requires, but I think as conservative Republicans, it's a policy that's worked for us. It's given us a strong economy, low unemployment, and we're going to continue to work towards that end. Any other questions? Yes.
Mike with the Daily Montana again. Just to kind of piggyback on that, when the governor from Florida was here and spoke with you, he mentioned that he had given a mandate, I believe, to his legislature 1 or 2 sessions that they could not spend more than the previous session. And I know that we're looking at a budget that is certainly grown from the last one. Is that something you'd like to see in the future, holding an even stronger line?
I think I've been pretty clear. There are reasons to increase, particularly present law requires certain increases in certain areas. I personally believe that we passed a very reasonable pay increase for our state workers. I think a worker is due their wages. If there was an attempt to hold the budget flat, there'd have to be cuts in one area to enable the additional expenditures in others. So I think keeping the rate of growth below inflation is the target that I've discussed publicly, and that's what we did in 2021 and 2023, and it's worked really well for us. And that means the economy is going to be growing faster than the size of state government, which allows us to continue to cut income taxes and property taxes. Great. Thanks, everybody.